Hi Christina, this is Dr. Wheeler. I'm just going to go over your writing assignment number 3 paper. And I'm going to start off by saying this part right here looks good, except the spacing. This needs to be double spaced. Double spaced, and date needs to be MLA style. And I'm just going to read over it as we go as I look toward my fellow coworker. Great productions into this right here. I would reword this as I looked toward my fellow co-workers. You've used a past tense right here, looked, and then you've used a present tense here. So you either need to change this as I look toward my fellow co-workers, I admired their great productions, or as I look toward my fellow co-workers, I admire their great productions. And you might want to say in the world instead of into the world. And I assume just things that they create, and you might want to change the word productions to creations. I desire to produce beautiful creations one day as well. So you've said productions here. I would probably change this, and I'll put a comment. Change to creations. I wish above all that someday my disappointment and darkness will fade away. And this doesn't make sense when it stands by itself, but when you add the ending to it, it does. I would connect these two sentences. I wish above all that someday my disappointment and darkness would fade. Would fade away. And then I would put a comma after away instead of a period, and then change this to a lowercase and get rid of the comma there. So put the comma after away, and then so that I can bring, and you may want to add happiness here. Bring happiness. I can bring happiness to someone else. And then you've just started off with Pixar short story film. I would say the Pixar short. Comma. Partly cloudy, comma here, is about a gloomy cloud and one unlucky stork. There is no need for a comma here. Although he was very destructive and different from the rest, this is a sentence fragment. You need to finish it out. When you put the word although, it turned it into a sentence fragment. I couldn't come up to you and say, although he was very destructive and different from the rest. You could leave off the word although and say he was very destructive and different from the rest. And you wouldn't say there is 3 characteristics, you would say there are. So I would get rid of this, and I would put there are 3 characteristics that stand. And so what are you speaking of? There are 3 characteristics of who? There are 3 characteristics in the gloomy cloud that stand out the most. He was very persistent. He was creative. And he was an achiever. For those reasons, comma, he is the cloud I would love to be. And let me go down to the next one. You've used an addition word. First, his persistence. His persistence with being a great producer is one of the things that stood out the most to me. It's really, you're not looking at, remember what your main objective is. It's not what stood out to you in the film, it's why you want to be him. And let me see right here, you said he was very persistent, he was creative, and he was an achiever. So this first one needs to be, he was persistent. First, his persistence, and get rid of this right here. That's not one of the reasons you said. First, his persistence is one of the things that stood out the most to me throughout the, and it's not a short story film, just say throughout the short, and why I would choose to be the gloomy cloud. Because remember, that's what you want me to know in this paper, is who you want to be and why. Although, and again you did it right here, there's no need for a comma, although his fellow peers produced beautiful creatures, comma, he kept pushing through his dark times. The gloomy cloud, and you've got a typo right here, you need to get rid of that space. The gloomy cloud wanted so badly what the other clouds, this is a subject-verb agreement issue, cloud produce. If this is a singular subject, it needs a singular verb. The gloomy cloud wanted so badly what the other cloud produced, or I would say the other clouds produced, because again, you've started off with a past tense. The gloomy cloud wanted so badly what the other clouds produced. You need to stick with your tense. He continued to produce. He continued to produce what? Creatures, hoping his creations would turn out good. Also, the unlucky stork stayed persistent with the gloomy cloud by returning back to him even though his creations were not the best. Secondly, the greatest of his reflection was shown through his work of creations. Okay, now up here, your second reason was he was creative. So, secondly, and I hate to say it, I would get rid of this whole sentence right here. Remember what you're trying to tell me. Secondly, the reason and I don't know if I would put second, I would put second. I wouldn't put secondly, I would put second. I would choose to be the gloomy cloud because, and you told me up here, because he was creative. Period. Most of the gloomy clouds, possessive, most of the gloomy cloud's best creations were displayed throughout his disappointment. Ditch the H. most of the gloomy cloud's best creations were displayed throughout his disappointment. His creations were very unique and one of a kind. And I think this, you have to hyphen all of these. Based off his personality, which was furious and powerful. You need to rewrite this. It kind of doesn't make sense. And let me say it out loud to you. Based off his personality, which was furious and powerful, which brought forth vicious animals. How about his personality was furious and powerful, which brought forth vicious animals. Furthermore, he could not control what he was producing because his creations were a part of who he was. Lastly, his ability to succeed greatness through the midst of it all led him to accept who he really was. Now, the third reason you told me you wanted to be him was that he was an achiever. So down here, I'm just going to cross this out, and you need to create another sentence right here. Create sentence using last reason why you want to be the cloud. I'm going to let you do this one on your own. The gloomy cloud strived to become a great producer to bring happiness into the world. He was so determined that he couldn't look up toward the other cloud, still hoping that someday his disappointment would go away. Stick to your past tense. The unlucky stork did not give up on his creations. It stayed by the cloud's side. And I would put the stork. But remember what your reason is up here. Your third reason was he was an achiever. So this entire paragraph needs to deal with his achieving or achievement. I don't even see the word achievement. The gloomy cloud's persistence, creativity, and being an achiever are the reasons he is the cloud I would love to be. Get rid of that. Although he wasn't like the other, I would put maybe happy clouds, because you call this one a gloomy cloud. Happy clouds. He stood out amongst them all. He was not satisfied with his creations, but at the end of the day, he had to accept who he was. I like the ending. Just make those corrections. Turn it back in Sunday before midnight, and I'll give you a grade on that. After this paper, you need to be able to do this editing on your own without me talking you through it, because this is quite a bit of editing. But overall, it was a good job. You just need to talk it out to yourself and let somebody else read it and make sure it makes sense. And get somebody that doesn't mind to tell you the truth. A lot of times, if you get a friend to do it, they'll say, oh, that sounds great. You need to either take it to the tutorial center and let somebody talk it out with you. But make these corrections. Open up your computer and make the corrections as I talk you through this, and submit it again by Sunday.